exploration of Recon. This is Deluxe Revised Recon. It's from Palladium books. This is a war game, role-playing game focusing on the Vietnam War. And I just recently did a video on Behind Enemy Lines, which is a World War II role-playing game that came out in 1982. And I believe the original version of Recon also came out in 1982 or thereabouts. And I played the original Recon back in the 80s with a friend of mine. He was the game master on it and did a little bit of role-playing with him through Recon, and found it very interesting. So I thought I would, so I picked this one up. I might have got it from Noble Knight, I'm not sure, but I picked this one up just a year or so ago, and mainly for nostalgic purposes, because I wanted to, kind of take a look at this again and remember some of the stuff that we did with this. So at the very least, one thing I find with role-playing games and with supplements is they tend to be decent source materials if you want to find out, like, especially, there's a lot of fantasy supplements, so if you want to get source material on stuff like that, then fine. I find these kind of the military or the war game type ones to be kind of interesting as well, because you learn a little bit about the equipment and the environments and the experiences that go along with it, and I find that kind of interesting. So thought I'd do a little bit of a exploration or page turn of Deluxe Revised Recon. And as I was saying a little bit about the Behind Enemy Lines is kind of a one and done or one shot. I mean, you are your characters, you roll up your characters, but given that combat is so severe, or the effects of combat are so severe that a lot of times your characters don't get through, don't survive to go on to other adventures. Or other missions. One thing about Recon is it pulled where Behind Enemy Lines was really kind of just focusing on your character and the experience, and then roll up a new one and go on another mission. This one brought some of the aspects of fantasy role playing into effect, in that you had a little bit more of a developed experience system. You can get other skills and develop your character. It also had alignment, which harkens back to the D&D type stuff. The alignments were different here. They weren't like lawful good and chaotic evil and stuff like that, but they had alignments to kind of add a little bit more depth to your characters. And then the combat was a little bit different. You had, how much damage you could take, kind of like the hit points you had in D&D, where, just where in Behind Enemy Lines, you take a serious shot, you're gone. I mean, it's not a matter of how much hit points you take. It's, whether they're, killed instantly, or light wounds or moderate wounds or what have you. This one, you kind of had that damage points that you take. So it had, there was a little bit more of character survival built into Recon than there was in Behind Enemy Lines. So this is the introduction to Recon. And again, this talks about saying that Recon was not, it talks about it was in 82. It says, I believe it was the first game designed to combat role-playing and miniature wargaming. Well, I don't know which came first between Behind Enemy Lines and Recon, but maybe they came out about the same time. But this one was kind of devised to marry the miniature wargaming and role-playing. And again, this was mainly focused on the Vietnam War. However, they said that it's not just a Vietnam game. Recon is designed to simulate the kind of small unit jungle warfare evident in just about any anti-guerrilla war. So having said that, though, most of this was focused on Vietnam War, the background, the environment, the terrain, the equipment, your enemies, all that was focused on really on Vietnam. However, you could extrapolate this and use this into modern combat of the time frame. This is the late 60s, mid to late 60s into the 70s. So any kind of jungle kind of combat or of that time period, you could probably use this to supplement that. Although I don't think it goes into, I mean, unless you're fighting the Vietnamese, probably not a lot of source material on that in here. It talks about guerrilla warfare, and this one's laid out a little bit different. You know, if you go back to my Behind Enemy Lines video, it followed the kind of the Traveler format of having books to talk about different aspects, whether it's characters or event tables or missions. This is all laid out in just one book, so it's all going to talk about you know, the introduction of fantasy, wargaming, or wargaming, role-playing in general, and then give you some game terms, and then it's going to get into the characters and their characteristics. Here's that physical damage, talking about so you can actually take damage. It's not a matter of just a wound and whether you're going to live or die. This talks about wounds and recovery, and so you're taking hit point kind of damage, kind of similar to D&D there. Movement, alertness, so all your different characteristics, minor characteristics. And, you know, there was my guy. You had different roles or different classes, kind of, again, harkens back to the D&D. So this was pulling more from the fantasy role-playing genre than what Behind Enemy Lines did, because they actually had, like, classes, so to speak. They call them military occupation specialties or MOSs, but they were kind of like the classes that you find in fantasy wargaming. And the character that I always liked was the Pig Man. This guy was carrying the heavy machine gun, the M60, and that was my guy. So you have skill selections. Again, these are all mainly focusing on combat skills, because this is a game about combat, right? Hand-to-hand skills, underwater skills, airborne skills. So you're getting some specialties skills that you can get into. Then you have like non-weapon skills, so, you know, demolitions and detect concealment, detect ambushes. So there's all kinds of language, of course, is important. So extra skills that you can get in there that are all related to, you know, role playing in this environment, which is, again, primarily, not exclusively, focused on the Vietnam War. Yeah, mercenaries here and some skills that go along with them, and that might be something where you get into the, you know, the other kind of conflicts that side of Vietnam, maybe, or other jungle conflicts. Experience points. So again, there was more of an advancement in what you can use your experience points for. Alignments, and here's some of the different alignments that you had. You know, like you had idealistic alignment, opportunistic, opportunist righteous, idealist pacifist. So it's an interesting alignment to have here. Opportunist karmic. So all kinds of different stuff. Here's your combat systems, hand-to-hand, bayonet combat. So you get all kinds of different unarmed, tavern, underwater. So here's your kind of explanation of some of the different kind of combats. Here's small arms fire, which I imagine a large part of the types of conflict you're going to have here. Here's your Recon Teams. And now you're getting into something that's really more specific to Vietnam War. Talking about that. Insertion, so this is, you know, getting into the action here. Different types of ways you can go there. Patrol boat. I mean, here we made infamous from the you know, movies of the time frame. Apocalypse Now. Then remember, which was based on the Heart of Darkness in part. Extraction, we're just going to get out with helicopter normally. Mercenaries, so you got all kinds of source material here to kind of give you the background for the game. And this is all, you know, contained in one book, so it's not like several books. Here's your different firearms. Goes into some detail on them. Some, you know, some of their specifications and what have you. And getting some of the other heavier equipment there, vehicles, watercraft, helicopter rules, a lot of stuff here on helicopters, of course, Vietnam, and getting into some of your other aircraft there. Here's the Vietcong and North Vietnamese Army, so here's some of your source material on them, and you know, the Game Master normally played that side. got into their weapons and what have you. Booby traps. So again, this is really, again, focusing heavily on the Vietnam War. I mean, I remember the first Recon, I don't think they really had any kind of notion of going into modern combat. Maybe they did, I just don't recall that. But this one, they give some tip of the cap to, you know, you can use this for modern combat at that time period. So this is 60s, 70s, right? But this really is focusing on Vietnam and role-playing in that environment, which kind of brings up the whole, I'm going to probably do something in the upcoming segment on alt history, you know, because this is, you know, when this came out, of course, this was after the Vietnam War. This is like 82 or so. So this is more historical, but to use it for conflicts that could take place in the 80s, because some of this equipment and stuff might still apply, that would be, you know, what if scenarios or hypothetical type scenarios. So it kind of comes into that alt history, and there's kind of a different ways you can slice alt history and how you play that from a war game perspective, but also from a role-playing perspective as well. But again, this really focuses on the historical aspect of, you know, role-playing in Vietnam. So it's the appendix here, talking about some of the military units, so you get a little bit of background on some of the U.S. forces there. Here's a glossary, all kinds of your alphabet soup that we all come to know with the military. Then you have this adding into Heroes Unlimited or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was another role-playing aspect of Palladium. So how to convert that over into that aspect. And again, just more source material here. So that's what you have here. So quite a bit. Then you get the Recon Adventures. So here's some missions that you could go on, and talks a little bit about that. Gives you the background, the mission briefing. So Vietcong Rescue here. So again, thought this would be interesting to kind of go in here, and you know, there's some source material in here. I don't know exactly how accurate it is, but it gives you some feel. Maybe some of the specifications on the equipment and stuff might be relatively accurate, but definitely gives you enough that if you wanted to role play Vietnam, this is a good source for that. I mean, I don't know of a lot of other sources that do role-playing for Vietnam. This is Advanced Recon, so I guess this is a supplement that's actually built into the book. Maybe this came out separate in the past, but now they've put it into this one book. Maybe that's what they're doing here. So you get a little bit more detail on some of the advanced. Here's your communications, preparedness. So for all you military veterans and buffs, this might be interesting to you guys. You might, you know, poo-poo all over this, or this might be actually some pretty good stuff. Here's Advanced Recon World circa 1965. Again, giving the kind of the feel for what was going on during that time period and some of your background information on the different entities involved here. Foreign agencies and advisors working in Laos. So quite a bit of information here. So that, again, a lot of this is probably more for the game master to kind of set the stage for what they want to do. Here you're getting into some of the, looks like we're getting into some random encounters here. That's kind of cool. I really like the, as I said in the Behind Enemy Lines video, I really like the event charts that were in there that kind of help you drive the narrative forward. Here you have random encounters that you could probably use to, you know, if you wanted to kind of solo this, to kind of use that to kind of go through some missions on your own. Here's some adventures based on the Advanced Recon here. Opium War, mission briefing. So a little bit of more variety here. And again, this would be for the game master to get the background and then set the stage and run your game. So that's what you get in the Recon book, and then here's some miniature rules. So the original Recon miniature rules, I guess that goes back to when it was really kind of marrying between the miniatures and the role-playing system. So you've got some miniature rules here. So for those of you that are interested in some Vietnam miniature rules, here's some, not very many pages, but a few here at the back. So 224 pages of Deluxe Revised Recon, a complete role-playing game, not compatible with Palladium Books Megaverse, so whatever that is for Palladium. So anyway, I thought I'd spend some time going over that. I've been in kind of a role-playing mood and pulled some of these off the shelf and thought I would spend some time with you guys kind of paging through and talking about military role-playing or war game role-playing from a historical context, which is what kind of Recon does for Vietnam and Behind Enemy Lines does for World War II. So if you're interested in World War II, go check out the Behind Enemy Lines video. Anyway, as always, thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope you found this interesting. If you even knew this stuff existed, if you didn't know it existed, you're probably gonna put some comments in there and tell me what I missed or what you thought about it or what was good or bad. Anyway, thanks as always. Bye. Thanks for watching.